I'm saying that a cat with a balloon on it is the perfect predator. A cat inside a balloon, that's just stupid.
Welcome to the Georg Rockall-Schmidt show. Today we're going to be talking about our fantasy Ghostbusters 3 movie.
Wrong. This whole series has been leading up to this moment, Damien. It's been lulling the audience into a false sense of security and whittling down the numbers with asinine chat only for this moment. It's a trap. This week, and every week thereafter, we are going to be talking about toxic masculinity. Damien, does your mum know that you hate women?
Oh dear.
And yet I knew that's the response I would get.
Oh, well, I've clearly become predictable. I think, you might have to scout for a new co-host.
You know, we're not talking about.
Well, don't fucking like butter me up or anything. Yeah, it's like, yeah, I've already put the feelers out. It's fine.
There's a reason your name isn't
You're finished.
On this. There's a reason that I've rebranded everything to the Boisterous Man.
Boisterous Solo.
Well,
cream of boisterous.
Oh. Well, there's a reason that that I started prattling on about all that shit. We're talking about Ghostbusters 3, like a fantasy Ghostbusters 3, i.e. a movie with the original Ghostbusters in it after the second one that isn't a remake. But I think, Ghostbusters is one of those movies, unfortunately, I can't hear the name without thinking of Ghostbusters 2016 and what a situation normal or fucked up that was. Like, when people say The Thing, I don't really think, do you mean the 2011 version? I know what they mean. When people say RoboCop, I don't think, that 2014 yeah, it's funny you go there. Abortive effort at whatever that was. I don't think that, but Ghostbusters definitely has,
baggage. I would say.
Yeah, it has baggage now. Yeah.
Well, I have a different perspective.
Oh, you think it's great?
I'm aware of the fucking. No, I mean I haven't actually seen the movie, so I don't have that kind of connection. Really, I mean I'm familiar with the furore.
Damien hasn't seen any Ghostbusters. He has no idea what the hell we're talking about.
I haven't seen anything that we've talked about. I mean that is specifically the criteria for which I was picked for this job.
Is Rocky 3 that one with Cassius Clay?
With Mandingo? What?
Well, okay, before we start on to our fantasy Ghostbusters 3, I just came back from watching Black Panther.
Oh, was that? I didn't realize that was out already.
It is.
And thoughts, feelings, emotions?
That is a very competent product they've got over there in Marvel Land.
It's a movie.
It's a movie. It's a product, and it got me kind of thinking that obviously that's what the new Ghostbusters was. I'm sure, to an extent, Ghostbusters, the actual real Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters, I'm sure that was a bit of a product. Ghostbusters 2 certainly was, and yet it doesn't feel like that when you watch them. They actually feel like, someone wrote this because they like writing movies, and they like being funny on camera. I watched Ghostbusters 1 and 2 this week just before doing them, and I have to say, I'm not a super fan of the franchise or anything like that. I'm not one of these people who grew up on Ghostbusters, but it was amazing watching a comedy that is both funny and gets to the fucking point.
I suppose so.
Yeah.
I don't really watch a lot in terms of comedy these days because
Because I'm dead inside.
Because I'm dead inside. Yeah, I think that's much more salient than anything that I was about to say. So I'm just gonna trail off like I usually do right now.
A bit dead on the outside as well. How are your toes? That was a cold winter.
It was. It's all right. I mean, I can get by with 8 toenails. It's okay.
Oh, that's horrible. I've heard lots of people say things like that about toenails falling off and anything. That's not happened to you, has it?
Oh, it has. I mean, I'm exaggerating with the 8 toenails, but it was like last week. I was just like clipping one, and then the whole thing just popped straight off.
Oh man, that means you're like turning into the Fly.
Yeah.
You've been craving a lot of sugar.
It's weird that you should say that, actually. Yeah, I kind of...
It's weird that you should say that because I did go through a teleportation device. Never thought about it, though.
Oh, dear. I'm getting hair in the strangest places. But it might just be because I've turned 15.
Oh, really? Your whole which toenail? It wasn't the big one, was it?
No, it wasn't the big one. That would have been much more satisfying. No, it was the one next to the big one. On my other foot. So yeah, the big one.
And that's the last listener just turning off right now.
I was digging a little bit more ferociously than usual. There's a lot of cheese under it, but
Wait, what do you mean digging?
it's fucking filthy, man. I had to shovel out some of that shit. I mean, I can cover it up with socks, but you know that stank don't lie.
And that really is the last listener leaving. That's just, oh God, that's horrible.
Yes. So yeah, that's Ghostbusters 3, ladies and gentlemen.
Anyway, you say you've not seen Ghostbusters 2016. How lucky for you.
Yes, yeah. I toyed with the idea, but then you quite adamantly advised against it.
Yeah, I mean, just to make my position clear, I don't really hate it or anything like that, but it's boring. I don't think it's terrible. I think it's boring, which is in many ways worse than being terrible.
I would suppose so. It's particularly for I would say for a comedy, but I think it stands for any kind of movie, really.
Watching Black Panther tonight. Black Panther's a long movie. It's over 2 hours. I think if your movie is over 2 hours and it's not about, well, I was going to say it's not about something weighty. If your movie is over 2 hours and it's not Casino, it's too long. Is basically what I think. But I don't know. I was kind of thinking about that, and I seem to remember Ghostbusters 2016 is quite long.
Oh, really?
Well, I'm sorry. I need to look that up.
No. We'll wing it. It's fine. I think the actual the facts themselves.
I should just record myself saying, "Oh yeah, Ghostbusters long. Oh, it's 110 minutes, 111 minutes." It's I brought it up.
You punch it in, and it's 65 minutes, and it's like Ghostbusters is a really short movie.
It's far too short. It would benefit from being cut down so it wasn't so short. It's 116 minutes.
It's 116 seconds.
It's really short. It's 116 minutes, and I don't know. I think almost always for a comedy I think is kind of 90 minutes tops. Maybe 100 minutes, if the credits are a bit long. But I kind of want my comedy. It's here, it's got its jokes, and then it fucks off.
Yeah, I think so. I
think the reason stuff like Arrested Development works so well is because it's 20 minutes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, at least it used to be. I mean, that's, I think, one of the first things that we noticed about season 4 when we checked that out. And so that immediately fucking bulking it out, I think we agreed, almost instantly that it fucking suffered from that. Yeah, comedy doesn't do well when it's a little bit bloated. So there are so few comedy movies that one I could list, but I guess simply for the fact that there's not many that I like. There are not a lot of comedies which don't have some kind of cross with some other kind of genre, which you kind of would watch for, I guess. I see a lot of people. There's obviously a lot of horror comedies or romantic comedies, and then if there is any kind of rewatching, it's because I think of the kind of the attributes in the other genre that they kind of cross with, I would suppose. Yeah.
So the longevity in a horror comedy, what you're saying is really from the horror.
Yeah. I'm not as like a hard and fast rule, but more as a kind of musing, I would say. Because I
agree. The comedy's more incidental, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I would say when you're looking for comedy, you kind of want like instant kind of gratification anyway. It's I don't think when I want to laugh to put on a movie, really. I think
I was just thinking that, and I was just looking at Blazing Saddles. That's 93 minutes. The reason I go to Blazing Saddles is one of the few movies I can think of that does make me laugh. I agree. I don't think of putting on a movie either. I think of I will watch 20 minutes of this show.
Mm-hmm.
And with Blazing Saddles, honestly, I think that's one of the best comedy films ever made, and I still think that is kind of like 5 minutes too long. I mean, not really, but 93 minutes is enough.
Yeah. I think it's a very specific number you landed on as well. I mean, you've crunched the numbers there, haven't you? It's like,
oh yeah.
I've had this draft on my computer. I was going to send this to Mel Brooks, but I mean, I've done the research. It's there, but I just don't pull the trigger, Damien. But I mean, trust me, it's fucking scathing. There's a reason that these 300 seconds should not be allowed.
Very racist. Yeah, so Ghostbusters is, I think it's about 1 hour 45, and Ghostbusters 2 is almost the same time. And I think the reason that they can go on so long and work is because, I mean, they are comedies, but also I care about what's happening. I mean, Blazing Saddles is much more sketches that are connected.
Yeah, I would agree.
Whereas, Ghostbusters, there's a story, there's drama, and even then, my own personal preferences could have been a bit faster. Got to stop doing this Burgess Meredith speed.
You're gonna work that into every episode from now on, right?
Our fantasy Ghostbusters 3 is just Ghostbusters, but Ernie Hudson has been digitally replaced with Burgess Meredith, and all he does is fucking talk about speed.
He's always racking up. It's really uncomfortable.
How do we take the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man down? Maybe we should cross the streams. No, we need speed. Gotta get some speed. He's got a lisp in this as well.
Right, okay.
He just
well,
had
yeah, I mean,
he's
fucked off his face. I mean, at this point, he's been chewing on his tongue for months now, and it's kind of this kind of fetid mush on there in his mouth. But he still he achieves some, a discernible diction. It's
no, I imagine it's people look at Ghostbusters 3, made in 1993, and people are saying Burgess Meredith looks really strapping. Wait, wasn't this made quite some time after Rocky? And that's when the scientists realised speed reverses the aging process. I don't know what it is. I think I've mentioned that drugs are good a lot of times in these podcasts.
Yeah, I think so, but
only if you buy Atom.
But there seems to be some memory issues therein.
Sorry, who are you?
I see what you did there. That's very good. That's Comedy 101. Comedy 101.
Oh, that Billy Crystal would be wetting his pants.
He's thinking, I hope that's not shepherd's pie in my knickers.
Is he thinking that, or is he thinking, I hope it is? Because I would hope it was shepherd's pie and not shit. I would much rather clean shepherd's pie out of my knickers than shit. That's when The Simpsons turned bad.
There was no logical consistency there. I couldn't buy it anymore.
Well, okay. What I was going to say what I was saying about Black Panther and Ghostbusters 2016, I just get the feeling that movies are more bloated now.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
And of course, as I've said, Ghostbusters was 1 hour 45 minutes, so maybe I'm talking absolute shit. Maybe what I'm really saying is movies just aren't as good, because they certainly seem to faff around for half an hour. I love Ghostbusters 1 and 2 because it gets right in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Immediately, here's a ghost, and these are the guys we're going to be following.
All right, so in this as a kind of reference, then, in 2016, how long do you have to wait to... Ghostbusters 2016, I should specify. How long do you wait before the reveal of a new ghost?
There's a ghost right at the beginning, but it takes a long time to get there, and then it takes a long time for the team to form and for them to be the Ghostbusters.
Right. Okay.
Whereas obviously in Ghostbusters, it's kind of Bill Murray and Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd are already kind of working on it without having, set up themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're the Ghostbusters like 30 minutes in, aren't they? Really?
Yeah, and like even at the beginning when they're not quite Ghostbusters, when they're in the library, it's like get that ghost. They know what they're doing from the beginning. We really don't join them at the beginning when they're still kind of thinking, oh, maybe we should bust some ghosts. I suppose in England it wouldn't be called Ghostbusters, it'd be called Ghost Knickers. You're nicked, you ghost.
You slag.
So Ghostbusters 3 could just be Nonce-Busters. Or Non-Snickers.
A very different movie, with a very different audience. And a very different appeal.
A very different movie with
a very different video store.
Well, you know what? Forget about that shit. People were asking me about your Falling Down story. You said last week, I was watching Falling Down recently, and then we got sidetracked.
Oh no, it was going to be.
I was watching Falling Down the other day, and then I put a lamp through my wife's face. Is that what you're going to say?
I mean,
not
that's
because
why
she's my wife, because
hospitalised.
she's a traffic warden.
Oh, there was nothing to it. I was going to talk. We were talking about what the Oprah movie would be, and I had an image of Oprah on a back in her talk show days. Just
I thought you were saying mobility scooter. God, that's distasteful.
Well,
you just bring the tone down, Damien.
I suppose I do. It's weird. I don't. These words don't come out of my mouth. I'm usually fed them, but yeah, I suppose I am the one that's bringing the tone of this down.
You're hinting at them. Like sometimes I go to the pub with Damien, and the way he sits, it's pretty fucking xenophobic.
Hands on my lap the whole fucking time. No eye contact.
We'll be sat in silence, and then I'll say, "I can't believe you said that, Damien."
And then I, immediately spin around and glare.
Yeah, because you're in like an executive chair wherever you are. You've always got a very long-haired white cat on you.
No, I've just got like a neck like an owl. I can spin it 360 degrees. My body is stationary the whole time.
Owls can't spin their necks 360 degrees or their head 360 degrees, can they? It's only 180, isn't it?
180, yeah, that sounds about right.
Or can they do it all? No, it's 270.
There's 270.
I mean, do you think they can wind them round and then they let them go? And there's like
that's what gives them the power of flight.
There's all this connecting. Owls, which gave us the inspiration for helicopters. Like, one of those hats with the propeller on the top?
Yes, exactly like that.
They just put one of those on an owl's head, but the propeller was fixed. And then you just wind the owl's head into its body, and then you press its beak in, and then that releases its head.
Yes, yeah.
And it gets up into the air.
Unfortunately, like regular barn owls aren't successful flyers because they have relatively smooth heads, but the tufted owls, they do really, really well with this method of flight. They fucking they shoot up in the air like a fucking rocket. It's fantastic.
I mean, I don't know why there doesn't exist a sort of bird which is just basically a cat with a balloon on it.
We just browbeat the scientific community and say, no, it is, in fact, a bird. Until there's a consensus. Like, everyone knows it's not, but everyone daren't say otherwise.
Don't make me purge another university. It's a bird.
And in 2 generations' time, like, the truth of how that came to be is completely forgotten. And everyone, like, accepts it as gospel.
Some people kind of know it doesn't make sense, but they're terrified.
Doesn't quite look right. Why is this? Why is this bird born without the balloon?
Why is this bird so uncomfortable all the time? Why does it seem to be scared of heights? Why is it constantly trying to wriggle out of the balloon, out of the harness that it's in?
So, is it tied to a balloon or is it inside the balloon?
It's like the boy in the bubble, but it's a cat. And the balloon can fly, and the bubble can fly. The bubble's full of helium, and there's a cat inside. No, I'm saying that a cat with a balloon on it is the perfect predator. A cat inside a balloon, that's just stupid.
Oh dear, yeah, that's practically that's inert, Damien. That doesn't work. You put that in the wild, immediately it's going to get picked off.
You would put the cat in the balloon if for some reason you needed to. I mean, I don't think of it a balloon. I think of it more of one of those things you would get in for fun. When you see people get in these big plastic spheres and then they run at each other and stuff.
Yeah.
I imagine if for some reason you needed to throw a cat down a cliff, but you wanted the cat to be okay, you'd put it in one of those.
But is it inside this ball with the balloon still, or are we talking like a different species here?
So it's like a cat with a balloon inside a silicon ball.
Yeah.
I think now we're getting into like
Venn diagrams. Fucking cross-dimensional now.
It is cross-dimensional.
All right, well, maybe. All right, so maybe this bird cat, right? Maybe it's the same balloon, right? It doesn't get into like one of those zorbing fucking balls.
Oh, zorbing! That's the word.
Like it for whatever reason, it's been engineered with like thumbs, right? So it can undo the knot on this balloon when it feels threatened and crawl inside, like a defense mechanism.
So I guess then it would also be able to, when it didn't feel threatened anymore, it would use its thumbs to put the harness back on. I just imagine a cat walking around with like human thumbs coming out of its neck or something, like Frankenstein bolts.
They're like scales.
Like cats, they develop this whole different sort of hierarchy of fighting each other. It's not like who's the biggest cat. There's, it's all about who can beat each other in a thumb war.
Right. Okay. Is that predicated on how large these thumbs are, or like the sheer number of them?
It's not a thumb war then. It's just how many times can I prod you versus how many times can you prod me. Just like real life.
The way I see it, they're running all along down their back, kind of with parallel to the spine. Like
spines.
Yeah. Well, if you like turn this cat upside down, it could like undulate like a caterpillar.
Yeah, right. Well, I was thinking it would just be a normal cat with a thumb coming out of its head, and then it could kind of like put its head against another cat's head, so they were like eye to eye, and then the thumbs would do the thumb war. Instead of the thumbs doing their war on a closed fist, it would be the thumbs doing a war on the scalps of cats.
Right. Okay. I thought you were going to say like clenched jaws or something like that. Okay. But that kind of makes sense, I guess.
Well, now I'm thinking, what if you didn't have a jaw, but you just had two massive thumbs that opened up like Predator's face?
For why the additional thumbs? Like we like the forehead thumb. Well, I didn't think it would be on the forehead, but we were kind of discerning a practical reason. I think we should
go with forehead and down its spine, like a what's the dinosaur called? Stegosaurus.
Caterpillar.
Like, what's the dinosaur called? A caterpillar? Is that what you just said?
Yes, it was. Yeah, I think it's Stegosaurus.
What if cats just had two big thumbs instead of legs? Or four big thumbs?
But where?
Cats have four legs.
Oh no! Well, I was going to say, where are these two thumbs? Is it like one thumb for each for two legs in place of two legs, or are they just at the front or at the back?
So if it's just at the front and the cat doesn't have any legs at the back, it just drags itself along.
Well, I was going to say if you have them at the back, it's not like they've got these like two thick leg stumps. It can.
And then it could go into water and like paddle like a duck.
Yeah. But it'll use its tail like a rudder, right, to kind of direct it. It's perfect.
It's perfect. And then when it's like, fuck this shit, I've had enough of hunting for koi, I'm going to hunt for pigeons, it'll just get into its balloon harness.
Yeah, yes, of course. And right, so if there's anyone that's kind of like disputing the fact that it is in fact a bird, as we were previously stating, we can tell them that it adopts the behaviours of a duck, no?
Birds do get wet. Okay, that's a scientific fact. Birds do water, and they do air, and they do land, and they do catnip and sleeping all day.
Right,
it's perfect.
You were so pleased you got to say do that many times, weren't you?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that was my falling down story.
That is what we've just designed is the perfect predator, and perhaps the perfect antagonist for Ghostbusters 3.
Discuss. Sorry, just a quick recap before we jump in. So how many thumbs does this cat have?
27.
27. So yeah. What we're going with? What one forehead, two jaw. Two leg, and then the rest.
Oh, okay.
Down
We're
the back.
doing the jaw. Well, I wasn't talking about the cat having them on the jaw. I was talking about a human having them on his jaw. So he could like open up his jaw if there was something that he or she wanted to eat, but it was too big for their mouth. They could open it up a bit like a snake, like Predator. You could get a lot if you could open up your jaw. If your jaw split apart, I think two thumbs would work really well doing that. You could swallow a whole bollard.
I suppose you could. Yeah, you could gently kind of massage it down with the additional support that I suppose your hands wouldn't give you in that situation.
Yes, that's right. I mean, I guess these thumbs on your jaw would have nails, or no, they're not on your jaw. They are your jaw. They would have nails, right?
Yeah, but are we talking like fingernails, or in terms of like hardware?
We're talking like 9-inch nails. Were we talking about this, or did I hear this somewhere else? Did I hear this in another podcast someone was doing or something where they were talking about what if your forehead had a nail on it?
No, that would have been elsewhere, or maybe some kind of fever dream.
I mean, wouldn't that be weird?
I suppose it would be, but I suppose if there's anything growing out of your forehead, it would be kind of weird.
It wouldn't be growing out of your forehead. I mean, you don't say your fingernail is growing out of your finger, do you? Would you say that? It's not growing out of your finger. That sounds like it's perpendicular to your finger.
It's growing from your... All right, so if there's a nail growing from your forehead, it's more acceptable?
I think the scientific way of describing it, or the medical way of describing it is, yeah, I mean, I have a fingernail that's growing despite my finger.
So, in your world, fingernails and your fingers are at war.
Damien, my world is your world. No. Do you remember Ghostbusters at all?
I don't know what you're talking about.
These people who do in ghosts. Ghost murderers.
Oh, dear.
Like no hot chocolate. That means you are afraid of a ghost because that's a double negative. I am afraid of a ghost. No. I am afraid of ghosts.
Like the theme itself plays out as normal, but there is a break every time there's a grammatical error, and you walk in like superimposed onto the screen. I need to explain to you right now. I brought my journal. Why this is not
journal? Bang! It's like 800 pages.
Page 1.
Who are you gonna call? The authorities. I also, in preparation for this podcast, who are you kidding, Damien?
I spoke to Citizens Advice. They told me.
I spoke to Cynicism Advice. Oh, how is he? Still balding.
That's my rap name.
My rap name would be Cough Drops. I watched a little bit of the real Ghostbusters, the cartoon that was around in the 80s and early 90s. Do you remember that?
Vaguely, but I saw bits of it as a kid with Platinum Egon.
Not only Platinum, but Platinum, like very weirdly coiffeured Egon.
Yeah,
he's got almost a kind of like Elvis-esque sort of ridiculous
quiff. Yeah,
It's a quiff, but it's also like in a huge role.
Yeah,
I mean, he almost looks like a piece of macaroni.
Does he have the sideburns to match as well?
I don't think he does. I don't know, but he does have. Yeah, I don't know. He doesn't look like anything like Harold Ramis.
Yeah, well, I imagine they will have like mocked up a few, caricatures of Harold Ramis. And it's like, this is going to play with kids.
Oh my god. Well, I did look up. I remember looking up a long time ago on the internet people's opinions as to why they made Egon in the real Ghostbusters like that, and the opinion was it was just so kids could tell the difference between people, because they've got like Dan Aykroyd, a bit fat, the way they drew him, and then they've got Bill Murray's character, Venkman, and he's got brown hair like Dan Aykroyd, but he's not quite as fat. And then they've got Egon, and they were like, well, he's another white guy with brown hair. How are we gonna draw him to look differently?
Yeah, it's going to be like looking at a mass of penguins. You can't tell them apart.
Yeah. Well, the way it's drawn, it's obviously fairly cheaply drawn. It doesn't look bad or anything, but
I suppose so. I suppose most of the time they're in like khaki jumpsuits as well that are pretty nondescript.
That seemed to be the consensus, right? So that's fine. I've got my explanation for that. I know why Egon is blonde. That makes sense. What I can never find, and periodically I will go around the internet looking for this to see if there's an update or anything. I find myself in the same old forums, the same post made in 2003. It's all very sad, because what I'm looking for, what I really want to know, the holy grail of cartoon questions is why the fuck sometimes is Lisa's saxophone blue and purple?
Oh, yes, in
the intro. In some of the old intros, not all of them. I looked it up, Dead Horse Interchange didn't know? No. Kiwi Farms didn't know? No.
Are these actual names?
Encyclopedia Dramatica didn't know? No. Yes, they are.
I see.
Bastions of knowledge. I don't know. I mean, can you speculate on that?
Absolutely not. No. I'm sure it's the same reason that I believe that they swapped the colours of blue's white in the first couple of seasons for some reason. It's a weird move, I guess.
Mo had black hair. Yeah, you want to look at something weird? Look at Randy in season 1 of South Park.
I seem to remember. He's really weird, isn't he? He's got like really high hair or something.
It's very strange. I mean, I guess if you'd never seen Randy, it would just be normal. But Randy having become such an important character later on, it's really weird to see him like that.
Yeah, he looks like he's kind of got a bit of elephantitis.
It does look like that, right? It's kind of like somehow his face is too big for his face.
Yeah, no, I would say it's far too small. It's far too small, his face.
Right. His face is too big for his face because his face is far too small for his face.
I imagine. Well, I can see that's just like production values in the first season, but I can't understand the fucking the racial swap in The Simpsons. Maybe someone was complaining that it was a. I don't know. I would say like The Simpsons was hardly like a kind of whitewashed cast or anything like that, or lack of.
Well, no, but you wouldn't say. You wouldn't say, well, make Lou into a black cop, but make Smithers into a white man. You wouldn't. I don't know. I don't know. I think it was just probably honing the characters, maybe.
Or people just plain forgot when they came back to work for the next season.
Just fuck it.
Fuck it. I got my new felt tips today.
Because it's all felt tip. Okay, do you have a fantasy Ghostbusters 3?
I would say fantasy is definitely the wrong word because it sounds kind of like I would desire this, but
well, okay, well, let me put it in a more kind of George and Damien sort of way. Do you have a bullshit Ghostbusters 3?
Can you just talk? Can you just pad out the episode a little bit, please?
Can you just shit out some nonsense about some movie that would obviously have never been made because it was never made? What a pointless thing that was to say. Do you have anything to say, Damien? Do you have any opinions on Ghostbusters?
It's great. Okay. I had something, but okay. So Ghostbusters 3, right?
Okay, that was good.
All right, I'll take another pass at that. Ghostbusters 3. All right, I'll stop it. So in the light of the events of the first two movies and the existence of ghosts is now
accepted.
It's widespread, the government steps in because this can't be something that's dealt with. It's a nuisance and something that can't be dealt with like I suppose what would you call them? Freelancers, contractors, I suppose. In that
it's too important for four schlubs to deal with.
Yeah, so they've stepped in and like the US government has made mandate upon mandate and and so they're kind of run out of business. They're not allowed to do it. It's entirely governmental procedure.
Like ghostbusting has been industrialized and it's become exclusive to a certain branch of the army.
Yes, yeah. It's almost, I would say, almost like a sort of a special sort of police force. I would say,
right.
But it runs these guys out of work. So they're finding their own way again. But they don't spend the same time as they once did. Bergman, Bill Murray never had the fucking patience for it anyway. But
what do you mean in real life?
No, I just find myself, it's easy to refer to.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, no, I just wanted to make clear because, I mean, you're right. Bill Murray, the reason Ghostbusters 3 didn't happen was Bill Murray didn't want to do it.
And fair enough.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's fair enough if you ask me.
But yeah, Dan Aykroyd doesn't.
I love this. Let's talk about Ghostbusters 3. We like Ghostbusters. Let's talk about if they made Ghostbusters 3, what we'd like that to be. As fans of Ghostbusters, what would we like that to be? Shouldn't have made it. Fuck it. Don't care.
Yeah, fine. Dan Aykroyd's he's not pissed. He's in a slump basically. His glory days are over. And just to specify, we are talking about Ghostbusters 3.
Yeah. Yeah, because in real life, Dan Aykroyd's glory days are way yet to come. He's far from his.
Oh yeah. He has. Like he doesn't know the word peak. All right, it's ridiculous.
I mean, I did like what he did with. Never mind.
Was that a bit? that was the punchline.
That was the punchline.
Yeah. Yeah, he reflects on his glory days. He's lost. He doesn't have the work. He's broke. He's penniless. He's got nowhere to go. His education was worthless. But he obsessed at some of the smaller facets of those days. One of them being that the sex dream he had with that ghost.
Right, that's unexplained. That.
Yeah,
I don't get it. Yes, go on.
And he waxed.
I know where you're going. Can I jump in, or are you?
Go for it. Yeah, no, you go.
Are you talking about Ghostbusters 3? It's like that movie. It's like one of those movies with Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger that we can never remember the name of. Junior. It's like that. Dan Aykroyd gets pregnant with a ghost.
That was not where I was going, but I do quite like that idea, yeah.
Okay, well, maybe let's come back to that. Go on with your idea.
All right, so like he's depressed. He takes his life. He's now the ghost, right? Dan Aykroyd
takes his life.
Yeah. Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
He takes his life and he goes straight to hell. And in hell, people, the first thing he's told is, you can't be a ghost if you've killed yourself. You just have to be here forever.
Roll credits.
It's 10 minutes.
You know what we're saying about comedies need to be fucking lean?
It's not a comedy, though. It's very sad.
It's a solo violin scores the entire piece.
I love this.
There's no dialogue.
So Ghostbusters 3, Dan Aykroyd kills himself to be a ghost.
Right, but he's obsessed with this dream that he had years prior, right? He decides that as a ghost, he is going to be a sex pest and relives that. Right? He kind of goes on a bit of a kind of Hollow Man kind of crime spree, I would say, for lack of a better term.
There's people in hotels or wherever he's haunting, and occasionally, like, their skirt will suddenly start to be lifted. And no one knows why. There's no vents or anything.
Oh, no. Much like, that montage in, Ghostbusters.
Oh, no, he's Dan
Aykroyd, like floating above the bed, and this very kind of sensual lace is kind of wafting around. Then he vanishes. And then, like, trousers or skirts, or like, kind of being undone by themselves. People fucking go apeshit, right? Because he was a former Ghostbuster, he knows the tricks, right? So, National Guard or whatever the secret police is, they come busting down the door, but they cannot bust Dan Aykroyd, right?
Yeah, Dan Aykroyd knows that their proton packs are flawed in some way or something like that.
Or he's flying about the rooms, he's getting them to cross the streams, but this time it doesn't work out, and fucking incinerates this new agey kind of, not new agey, it incinerates this new breed of Ghostbusters, right? And he's giving the slip left, right, and center, right? And so they're having to step up their operations at every fucking turn. I'm not quite sure like how the third act pans out, but he is facing down the entire National Guard. Right.
I like that, and he's there, and he's, they're like, yeah, we've got the proton packs and everything, we'll go after him. But then, he takes over a TV station and he lets it be known, yeah, if you come after me, I'll be at your house with your wife. Simultaneously, like the 1,000 National Guard that are coming after me, I'll be in all of your homes.
Because what you didn't realize about ghosts is, right?
They can be many places at many different times.
Instant teleportation, right?
Oh no, it's not instant teleportation. It's like they can project themselves into multiple places at the same time.
Oh, yeah, all right. So there's no instant teleportation, right? He splits himself into different Dan Aykroyds, right? But he has to go there on foot, no less, right? So he makes his broadcast.
Ernie Hudson, Bill Murray, and Harold Ramis didn't do this, but it's okay because we've got 4 Dan Aykroyds.
Right, he's positioned himself all over America. He's waited 2 years to do this broadcast because the other 3 Aykroyds have had to get there on foot, right?
I thought you were going to say we couldn't get it made straight away because one of the Dan Aykroyds was holding out for a higher paycheck.
Because again, for the sake of this movie, they have projected the means of science by decades, and they've actually cloned 3 more additional Aykroyds.
3 ghost clones. Doesn't get any better than that. Well, okay, I was thinking, do you remember that there was an episode of Star Trek Next Generation that you made me watch where Counselor Troy gets in touch with a ghost of an ancestor, or I think it's like a ghost of an ancestor who was doing one of her ancestors or something, and therefore maybe is one of her ancestors. And she's telling Crusher, the elder, that when I go to sleep at night, I can feel this ghost fiddling with me, and it's really nice. I mean, maybe you could have a bit of a crossover where it's Dan Aykroyd. And she thinks that this, I've been reading this journal from the 19th century, and the ghost of that person, is playing with me in my sleep, and he's so romantic and he's so wonderful. And then it's fucking Dan Aykroyd, and he's like, hey.
I feel like if we kind of scoured your hard drive, we find the script for this already. This is like your fucking pièce de résistance fucking fan fiction, no?
I just wrote fan fiction about the ghost of Dan Aykroyd fucking Councillor Troy in her sleep.
I'm sure I could Google search that.
And in my universe, every time the computer does anything, instead of like saying compliance or acknowledging anything, if you say like computer, what's the temperature? It'll tell you, but then it'll be like, computer, what's the temperature? The temperature is 23 degrees. Rah, rah, rah. And it's just Sid James' perv laugh. Rah, rah, rah. Every time the door opens, it's that noise.
It's like every time they're finished using a computer panel, you just get a kind of like a static shot of Sid James watching you all the time.
And also, every time a door opens and one of the Crushers comes through it, it's your voice going, Crusher! He's a Crusher!
All right, so, like, Dan Aykroyd's diddling Troy, right? And is this a good or a bad thing?
That's a horrible word.
Is this consensual or not? I mean, she was enjoying it at first, or now she hates it or what?
Well, this is why that episode stuck with me, it wasn't consensual. It was just, she just said, "Oh, I felt a presence last night on my clit," sort of thing. and then she says, "Oh, and I liked it." And I always thought that was really weird, and in many ways brave of them to do.
Oh, I see. But when she finds out it's Dan Aykroyd, is she of the same opinion?
Oh no, I think she's really keen to meet this ghost. They do something where they make this ghost physical, no longer ethereal. It's what would the word be? Corporeal?
Yeah, I think so. Corporeal, maybe. I don't know.
Corporeal. She thinks it's going to be this kind of old 19th century etching or early photograph of this gentleman from the past, and it's just Dan Aykroyd, and he's got this massive grin, and you don't even see her reaction. It's just immediately.
All right, so maybe so when they're like beaming him to life, right? They've got like this chamber in sickbay, right? And they do like this kind of reveal that there's some kind of mishap, right? When they're doing it, they get some like funny reading. And they approach this chamber, right? And when they fucking separate the doors, it's Dan Aykroyd's giant fucking face, and that's it.
And he's holding a cat that's got 27 thumbs.
Oh, we've come full fucking circle.
There's no explanation, and it's just like, and then it zooms out, and Kevin Spacey stood there as well, looking at the camera as the camera's still tracking back, and you just hear Kevin Spacey say "Welcome to Hell," and that's it. Cut.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's the movie.
That's way better than what I got. My idea was basically doing what Aykroyd wrote as a script in the 90s. Called Hellbent, Ghostbusters 3 Hellbent. Have you heard about that?
No, I haven't heard about that.
So he wrote a script where the Ghostbusters go to an alternate version of New York or Manhattan called Manhattan.
Right.
And they meet the devil, and I just got this image of like it could be Ghostbusters 3 and Bill and Ted 3 exactly.
I said that like quite scathingly, but I don't hate that idea.
No, I like Bill and Ted. They're doing another one of those. Did you know?
I had heard. Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah.
Same cast, or are they doing the same kind of? Are they passing the torch?
Well, you mean like if it's Bill but not Ted? Well,
Ted's dead.
Obviously, Rufus isn't going to be there, is he?
No.
Unless they do a Peter Cushing with him and it's all CGI. That'd be awful. I'm sure George Carlin would fucking hate that.
Yes, I think
that seems appropriate. That's what movies seem to do these days. They seem to think, how can we fucking piss on somebody that people like?
We pissed on the franchise. How do we piss on someone in the grave?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. But yeah.
No, Bill and Ted, it might as well go full hog. They might as well have Rufus there, a CGI Rufus, like address. They might as well do a CGI Rufus addressing the camera saying, "In the 80s, I told some jokes which were out of taste. I'm very sorry." They may as well just do. They may as well just. Oh, fuck it. Just animate anyone and get them to say whatever you fucking like.
So you got high hopes for this movie, I take it.
I've got high hopes for fucking humanity, clearly. But obviously, Manhattan. I can't think of hell without a cat that has thumbs on its back.
Right, okay, so again, we're bringing in other facets of what we've been talking about today. I mean, this is like, it's almost like we carefully engineered this show. It's like it was scripted. It's fucking dynamite.
Now I'm thinking, what if the dwarves are Mark Wahlberg's legs? What if they had all thumbs instead of fingers? Wouldn't that be weird?
What if, like, Satan himself wasn't in fact an amorphous blob of at least 60 Marky Marks, like as we described him?
You're going to say, what if Satan himself was a thumb?
Instead of horns.
Instead of horns, he's got 2 thumbs. But Satan's like 60 feet tall, but they're just normal thumbs.
They kind of just look like nipples from far away. It's really really undercuts his tone.
Like long nipples. Have you ever seen anyone with really long nipples?
I've heard tell of them, but I haven't seen them.
Honestly, I don't have anything better than Dan Aykroyd kills himself to become a ghost. That is the perfect Ghostbusters 3. What I was going to say is I was going to go through this thing about, they should have made it in 1993. They could, even if Harold Ramis was alive now, I don't think I would want to see a Ghostbusters 3 now.
We'd see potentially. I mean, it's obvious. It's a little bit on the nose, but this is like, it's a good environment, to make the next Ghostbusters movie, since some of the cast are off the ethereal plane.
Well, this is right. This is where this has led me to now. This is the perfect time to do Ghostbusters 3.
So
because you could completely bastardize the memory of Harold Ramis by having a CGI ghost of him. I'm fucking surprised they didn't do that in Ghostbusters 2016. I'm starting to sound angry now. But I am surprised they didn't do that, actually. His cameo was the best one in there. It was just a bust. It was a bust of him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it was like, looking back at that was nice because that was dignified.
Just like...
Bill Murray.
No, in Indiana Jones. The guy
Denham Elliott.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
I think it's much nicer to do that than, animate Peter Cushing.
Yeah, what movie was that?
Rogue One.
Oh, right, okay. I haven't seen that, but I heard that was quite dubious. It's
weird because it's kind of like if the whole movie was that level of CGI, like if the whole movie was CGI and everyone was CGI, people would be saying this is great. It doesn't look like this is the real thing, but it's great animation. Like it's an accomplishment, but it still doesn't fit. You can still tell it's still uncanny.
Yeah, I don't see why they just don't swap it out for a different actor. Not even someone that looks like comparable. Just have them address them as that character. I would say it'd be a little bit more fucking respectable.
Honestly, the story you could have you don't even need the same character. It could have just been a different character. And you don't need the guy. You don't need a lookalike or anything like that. People know that Peter Cushing isn't alive anymore. Okay, you don't have to make a fucking replica of him.
No, very bad taste, I would say.
Very bad taste.
Bad show. It's just not cricket.
Do you have anything else to say about Ghostbusters?
Well, you did. We did touch on Dan Aykroyd in this kind of was it fucking junior scenario? Did you want to maybe?
Dan Aykroyd is pregnant with the ghost of Harold Ramis.
Ramis. That's that. Yeah, I was gonna.
That's
it.
it.
That's it.
That's the most offensive thing I can think of. And it's like that. I was sorry. I forgot the actor's name, and I was going to say who's the actor who is in Downey Boy, not Downey Boy, Waterboy. Who's the actor who's in
Adam Sandler.
Adam Sandler. I wanted to say Ben Stiller. Have you seen that Adam Sandler thing where his head is on a baby?
I have not seen that. No, that sounds hellish.
I wiped your ass our entire childhood. Now it's your turn, buddy.
Well, anyway, that's what I imagine they would do to Harold Ramis's head.
No, I kind of think it's like Harold Ramis is never actually born, but he nevertheless grows full size inside of Dan Aykroyd.
Right.
He's never like kind of birthed properly. He kind of just like his head kind of like bursts through like the lower portion of his stomach. But obviously, because he's a baby. He's upside down. So you've got Dan Aykroyd has to like spend the rest of the movie shirtless, so Ramis can breathe naturally, right? But you've just got his upside down face underneath his belly button, right? He has to kind of wear specially adapted trousers, but his like throughout the course of the movie, the rest of his limbs grow out through like the rest of Aykroyd's torso, I think.
So is Harold Ramis ever conscious?
Oh, so you reckon that Harold Ramis is stillborn? I was going to say, yeah, no, he.
Well, you said he was never born, so.
Well, I mean, like Aykroyd's not a woman. He doesn't, he can't birth. He just has this thing growing inside of him, right? So just kind of.
I think this is all the debate. This is like the junior debate. I think Venkman and Zeddemore want to terminate the Harold Ramis fetus because it's a crime against nature,
right?
But Dan Aykroyd really doesn't want that, and so he goes on the run, and they're following him. They're not like a danger to him, but they really want to convince Dan Aykroyd not to have the Harold Ramis baby, and it ends with Dan Aykroyd becoming more and more kind of flustered. It's a psychological horror. Is this really happening? And then it ends up with him in a motel hiding from Bill Murray and Ernie Hudson as they look for Dan Aykroyd to try and help him because they think he's basically a new mother in distress.
Right. Okay.
And then it ends with Dan Aykroyd naked. He has Harold Ramis. Harold Ramis is naked. Dan Aykroyd stands up for the first time after the labour, and then Harold Ramis, naked, walks right up to him. It's a 50-52 shot on them.
Right.
Kind of just above the waist, so you don't see any cock or anything, but you see a bit of nipple.
Yeah, tasteful.
And they get so close that their nipples are almost touching. Harold Ramis kisses Dan Aykroyd. Credits. That's a fucking Oscar.
That's stunning. That's absolutely stunning.
And the credits are in silence as well. like this should be devastating.
Yeah, they don't put the lights back up in the theater.
No,
not yet.
The audience moves. No one's getting up saying that was good or anything like that. They just move, and then they go to the parking lot, get in the car, don't turn the lights on in the car, don't start the car. They just weep.
They roll up all the windows. They just leave the engine running.
I think we've got it. I mean, I think that's all we need. This is it. This is Ghostbusters 3. This is our fantasy movie. Yep. As you might have expected, it's become a fucking nightmare. Also, there's a cat with thumbs. It's just the Ghostbusters, but they're retired and they just go on a boat trip together, and it's a bit fun. They have a couple of heart-to-hearts. It's all. Yeah. It's a Mike Judge thing, so it's very kind of calm and laid back.
There's a hot tub.
Is there a hot tub?
Yeah.
I think
they
that's
don't get in
a
it.
bit too much. Oh, okay, they don't get it. There's leaves in it, so they don't get in it.
Yeah, it's a talking point, like who's gonna deal with it, and then they say it's gonna be Bill Murray, but he's a bit of a cheeky fucker, and he says he will, but he won't. He knows he won't. They know he won't, but they get pissed off,
It's most of it's like in an RV that they're sharing, and like the entire soundtrack is just.
Boom boom.
Make a U-turn when possible. Make a U-turn when possible.
Yeah, but they're in like at this point,
recalculating your destination.
At this point, the scene is cut to like a Greasy Spoon cafe, but you still got Satnap.
It's cut to a Greasy Spoon cafe, but the sound from the scene previous is still continuing because no one could be bothered to edit this properly.
Well, there's just loads of like extreme close-ups of the three of them, of their brow, and it's just like, yeah, tensions are running really, really high. Something happened before they got in that car, and that's what they're going to work up to, the reveal.
Well, what do you think it was? What do you think?
I don't know, but they kind of, I reckon they're going out to the woods to die.
Okay, all right. Maybe it could be. Maybe the surviving Ghostbusters take Harold Ramis's. I was going to say his remains, his ashes, out to the woods to sprinkle them.
Right. Okay. Right. So they get there, right, and it's one of the Great Lakes, right?
Right.
And they're going to scatter him over the water or something. And then the most tasteless thing they could possibly do, as soon as they pop open the lid, they see Harold Ramis's head pop out, right?
Like on a spring. Like it's a Jack in the Box.
Yeah, because I mean that was like the placeholder for the CGI, but no one fucking caught it in editing. So it's a really crude doll as well. And for the rest, it's like, oh, we've got our buddy back, and so they adopted it, for lack of a better term. But they never addressed the special effects in the movie, and they refer to it, even though it's not really clear it's Hal Ramis. They act as though it is him incarnate. It's really quite bizarre. It's more of a study of mental degradation and illness.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's where like every fucking suggestion we have, it's always like, it's a study into mental degradation. It's a study into madness. It's a psychological horror. Basically, we're weirdos. Basically, that's it, isn't it? That's this podcast.
Yeah. Well, the kind of junior thing could have been like something more for like political advocacy groups or something like that, with the kind of pro-choice and all that kind of stuff. So it's not necessarily mental illness, but, we got some kind of, some weight, some, gravitas there.
Now, I know this isn't what we're talking about, but wouldn't Junior have been better if Arnold Schwarzenegger was pregnant? But the way male pregnancy works is Arnold Schwarzenegger is pregnant with Danny DeVito,
I think that's for next week, no? Look out for that nightmare.
Movies that where men should have been pregnant with fully grown people.
All right, so the second Danny DeVito, right? So the second Danny DeVito is the Danny DeVito in a Danny DeVito. Inside that Danny DeVito
when the second Danny DeVito is born, the first Danny DeVito dies. That's why Danny DeVito has always been a 65-year-old man. He doesn't age.
Every 2 years, he kind of like sheds...
There's a new one.
Yeah, he kind of like sheds his skin out, but he starts at his mouth, right? So as soon as he dislocates his jaw, pulls it back, and as soon as you do that, you can see like the next Danny DeVito start to emerge.
Well, thank you very much for listening to this atrocious podcast. I'm very sorry. One thing I wanted to say, thank you to anyone who's seen my political correctness video recently. I imagine most people who listen to this or watch this watch my other stuff. I got some very interesting comments on there. I mean that unironically. I mean, I got some very kind of interesting, deep, thoughtful comments on there. And they were very interesting to read, so thanks for that. See you next week, maybe not, where we will be discussing what Bill and Ted 3 could be. Probably won't be, because we'll just talk about cats with thumbs on their backs again. Ted's dead, and Bill gets pregnant with Ted.
But inside that baby is Danny DeVito, and he's carrying at least like 8 other Danny DeVitos like a fucking Russian doll.
But then you zoom out and you realise all this is happening in a tear coming down George Carlin's face, a CGI George Carlin, as he apologises for making funnies back in the 80s.
Yeah, thanks very much for listening. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.